Okay, so Cuckoo rules.
Please let me in right now! Please let me in!
I was not expecting to love it this much. I thought it was gonna be fun. I thought it was gonna be a movie, but this was art. One of the reasons Cuckoo is so good is because of its editing. The editing in Cuckoo is thematically relevant to the story that it's trying to tell. It's been a minute since I saw a movie that got me so excited about editing and what it can do for storytelling. If you like incredible sound design, gorgeous cinematography, weird shit happening, and stories that deal with a tone of crazy making and gaslighting, this is probably going to be up your alley. If you need one reason to go see this movie, know that Hunter Schafer is dressed like someone from a Kojima production. She looks like an anime character. It's fucking badass, and she's acting her fucking she's. First, I'm going to talk about the movie in as non-spoilery a way as possible. After I watched the movie, I called my friend Elyse, who had told me that I needed to see it, and we talked about it for a while, and then we kept talking about it, and then we were like, we should hop on a Zoom and talk about this some more.
Hi, I'm Elyse. I am Bird Void on YouTube. I make music, and I write and edit. And I also have assistant directed a few features.
So there's going to be bits of her speaking about this film as well, because I think she had a lot of really good insights about what this film is and what it's doing and what makes it interesting. The premise is basically young girl, mom die, moved to Germany with dad and stepmom and stepsister, live at weird facility owned by a philanthropist guy. Hijinks ensue.
How was your journey?
Very pleasant, thank you.
Good. Gretchen, come say hi.
What's up?
The first half of the movie was kind of my favorite just because of how much like crazy making dread there was. And this like fish out of water character who's just like, I don't want to be here. I'm grieving. This whole thing sucks.
Yeah, like I hate my stepmom and I hate my dad for marrying a stepmom, and I hate my sister because she's the product of my stepmom.
Tone is really important for me in movies, and this movie sets its tone immediately. You are uncomfortable in the first 10 minutes of this movie. Something feels wrong, and it keeps reminding you of that. We are experiencing a lot of the world through Gretchen's eyes, and little things like a crackle in the bushes and the strange saccharine sweetness of a neighbor. All of these things feel vaguely threatening to her.
I'm your neighbor. I haven't heard about you.
Why would you have heard about me?
The terror of the first half of the movie lies in Gretchen's hyper-awareness. She doesn't yet have the language to articulate her unease, but she is noticing these things.
You told the police that you were chased by a woman.
I think I'm crazy.
The core of the horror in this film is the experience of having your selfhood, your intuition, your knowledge not witnessed or respected by the people around you. This movie reminds me a lot of one of my favorite films of all time, The Witch.
Let us pray.
In that film, your girl Thomason really can't catch a fucking break. She's trying her best. She's trying to be holy. She's trying to be a good daughter. She's trying to be a good sister. But everyone keeps blaming her for things.
You've cursed this family.
People are threatened by her burgeoning sexuality, by her burgeoning autonomy, and by the fact that within the next couple years, she may get married and leave the family unit. They are threatened by the change that she represents and the instability to the idea of what they want the world to be. I think it's a really effective horror trope to explore the disempowerment of being disbelieved or maligned against your will. I think when it's grounded in this social paranoia, it really taps into this fear of being othered, the fear of being on the outside, and therefore your story and your narrative not being valued. From here on out, gonna spoil Cuckoo, so if you don't want that, that's okay. But also, you're already watching this, so might as well stay, I suppose. When I saw the trailer for Cuckoo, I was kind of surprised that we saw the monster. This movie shows us what the baddie looks like early on in the movie and still manages to make her scary. The use of discontinuity in the editing of the Cuckoo makes it feel like it is not tied to time and space in the way that the rest of the characters are. The Cuckoo's powers create this time loop in which memories start to vibrate and distort, and we just see the same like 5-second loop of things continually happening, and we just see the same like 5-second loop of things continually happening, and we just see the same like 5-second loop of things continually happening. It is a disorienting thing, and it's being used for disorientation. The characters are experiencing what we are experiencing, but as it keeps happening, the film trains us how to understand what's happening. Sometimes the repetition brings us a new take in which the character is realizing what's happening as it's happening. Sometimes we're seeing a different angle of the same action, but it immediately draws its attention to this is a symptom of the monster. This is something the monster can do. Basically, one of the Cuckoo's superpowers exists as a thing we can perceive in the movie, not because of something put on the screen, but because of how the images are presented to us. The repetition through which they are presented, the visual effects of the shakingness and the distortion, the sound effect, this warbling, warping, pulsating sound. I think this is one of the best sound designed movies that I can remember. The last movie I saw that brought this much attention to sound design in a way that deeply moved me was probably Portrait of a Lady on Fire in 2019.
Last weekend, I saw it twice, and I work at a movie theater, so I wanted to see it again, but I didn't have time. So I just watched the last like 20-25 minutes, the majority of it with my eyes closed, because I wanted to experience the sound design on its own, and it was a very cool experience.
There's a scene in the hospital between Gretchen and Herr König where he's basically threatening her to stay the fuck inside lest she gets hurt more.
And what makes you think you can take charge of the rest? If I were you, I would stay home.
She is told to stay inside to protect her from the forces that could endanger her, but the person in control of the forces endangering her is this motherfucker who owns the conservatory. When he is talking to the stepsister in that porch area at the house, he's lit by the setting sun, the glow of the sky behind him. And it's just like the halation around his head is so bright.
The light is pouring in on a level that is like idyllic, and then idyllic on top of idyllic, until it's just like, you know, a deep fried meme version of an idyllic moment. And then it's like they turn the camera back towards the mother, father, and Gretchen, and they are normally lit. He's like sitting there in this ethereal, overblown, saturated like room behind a pane of glass and saying weird shit. And she's just like, this is fucking weird.
Your family belongs here.
That's a fucking weird way to put it.
The way he thinks of himself feels like it's reflected in the way this is shot. It's like he thinks of himself as like the preservation work he's doing is not only essential, it is like holy somehow. And then like we've got our protagonist who's kind of just by proxy of being an outsider is kind of like, guys, why are we gazing upon this person? Why you have forsaken giving me any attention or care because you believe in this guy.
Yeah, he's just like this rich German fuck. And And you're like, damn, you don't know anything. This guy makes like hotel fuck dens near the Alps, I guess, and paid us to build another one. Like, we trust him.
At the end of the movie, right after Gretchen kills the cuckoo, the mother, we just get a close-up on this dead woman as the veins in her face start to be less protruding, less purple. And we see just the face of what otherwise might be a person. And for me, that moment kind of crystallized that the danger that the cuckoo represents is facilitated, maintained, conserved by Herr König. Herr König speaks a big game about his conservatism, but it's conservatism. He is conserving. He is doing preservation work for this thing that might have otherwise died out. To me, the thing that is being conserved on a metaphorical level is some shit that maybe should have stayed in the past.
And then they just like drop kick you with this very emotional moment at the end of the movie where Gretchen is trying to convince her sister to trust her so they can leave together, because the only way they can leave is together, by using each other as human shields. And it's just like, God, this is how you end a fucking movie.
So there's this shot at the end of the movie as Gretchen and Alma are making their escape. There are two men out in this room. One of them wants to kill Alma because she is a monster in his eyes, and one of them wants to kill Gretchen because she is thwarting all of his plans. Both will not kill the other. And the way this is represented visually is the direction the cart is being pushed is the direction the camera is dollying. It's kind of a low angle. On the left side of the frame, we've got Henry, his gun pointing to the center. On the right, we've got Herr König, his gun pointing to the center, but the opposite. And then down the center, we have our protagonist and her sister. This shot fucking rules.
This is one of those movies that like indulges in violence and that like kind of fun macabre experience of watching a horror movie without engaging in the myth of redemptive violence, which is like really fucking rare. The whole final sequence is really about like these two men who are trying to resolve the conflict of the story with violence, with like, I am going to kill the threat to me and to my ideals, and then this story will be over. And Gretchen realizes that for her, the value is in nurturing the relationship she has with her sister that she's ignored. The whole final sequence is her just getting in to her sister and getting out past these people who each have opposing goals to kill either Gretchen or the girl. It's just like their aggression, they cancel each other out, and in the end they end up killing each other because the goal is resolution through violence.
Another moment of the editing that I want to talk about is when König and Henry shoot each other.
What you pointed out and what I also noticed is like a very exciting and interesting little editing choice where they have a standoff, this immediate cut between the two guns going off and then it echoing into the hallway.
These dudes are just in a standoff with one another. Then we see the gun pointed to the left and then the gun pointed to the right for like 2 frames each. But it happens so fast that you end up getting the impression of the gun, the feeling of having seen this gun flash in front of your eyes, more than you actually have time to process that that is the image you saw. There's no time to notice details of what these guns looked like. You just know that you saw gun left, gun right, and then we're out of the scene as we hear the gunshots reverberate. That is cool editing. It's explained to us by Herr König later in the movie that cuckoos are a type of bird species that lay their eggs in other birds' nests. And when these eggs hatch, they'll often actually push the other birds out of the nest.
They don't have nests. They put their eggs into the nests of a different species of bird, and then they let these birds raise their offspring. And that results in all of the offsprings of the host parents dying.
So many people could be the metaphorical cuckoo bird. This fucking monster could be the cuckoo bird. Herr König could be the cuckoo bird. Gretchen could be the cuckoo bird. Alma could be the cuckoo bird. Gretchen feels like she's being pushed out of the family by Alma. And at the end of the movie, we find out that Alma literally exists due to the egg laying of the cuckoo. She is part cuckoo. But also the rest of the family feels like Gretchen, by way of coming into this situation that she wasn't in before, is pushing out Alma. It's made clear that the dad would value Alma over Gretchen and would actually like it if Gretchen just fucking left. The dad sees Gretchen as a threat to the family unit that he's trying to protect and foster. And that's why this film feels so fucking queer. Gretchen is allowed to exist in this world, but she is not welcomed into this world. This world was not made for her.
Because her whole thing is that she cannot take up space in her family at all. She's consistently in situations where, like, what is desired of her is to not exist. Like, her family doesn't want her to go anywhere, but they also don't want her around them. They are like, oh, we're happy to have you here, but we also don't really want to do things with you. We're going to be focused on our stepdaughter. So it really is like, we don't want you to exist. It is a helpless frustration. To me, that feels like the 2 years after I was out of college and I was home. I had a job for 6 months at like a car dealership detailing cars, and it paid nothing and I was miserable and I thought I was going to move away, and it like fell through. And then I was just at home and I had come out to my parents and they didn't understand, and I was in no way transitioning, but I still had to like exist in the family. So like the invitation was, oh, you should be participating in the family. You should be coming to church. But when I came downstairs out of my room to church, there would inevitably be a complaint or a concern or a prayer for repentance. Again, I don't think the movie is like very specifically written about queerness, and I think it can be applied pretty broadly to any kind of like othering people experience. But that ache is very, very specific and potent to me.
I saw in an interview that Tillman Singer was talking about how he often starts his writing process from a place of feeling.
I tend to think in feelings first, like how I want. Maybe it's vague at first, but what's sort of the structure of feelings I want people to feel. And horror lends itself for really big, really violent emotions and stuff like this. So I think that's how that got in there.
You can feel that in this movie. It doesn't feel like it's trying to conform to a pre-existent idea of what it's supposed to be, the importance of what it's trying to say. It's saying things that it doesn't necessarily even fully understand itself.
I think another reason people find it confusing is because it's not an analogy for something specific. Like, if you want to interpret it, you actually have to do some analysis. To me, it is more effective when you can tell people are tapped into, when they're creating, a sense of unconscious meaning versus like, I am trying to make this mean this.
Cuckoo does a really good job of balancing what you can understand and what you can't understand, what you are given access to and what you're not given access to. There are still mysteries unsolved by the time you leave the theater. You don't know exactly what you just saw, so you get to theorize about it. You get to think about it. You get to talk about it. You get to have discussions about what you think this means.
Like, there is a read here that this is like a very political movie about like sexual conservatism, you know, like the main guy seems to just be like using women as incubation factories. He's one of these people who's like, the Western world is going to die out unless we get birth rates up, and we get birth rates up by taking away women's rights. We do it by emphasizing conservative traditional relationships, one man and one woman, and they come to the romantic suite at a resort and they fuck on their honeymoon and they have that child. But there is also like Hunter Schafer as an actress is a choice. For me, all of these trans themes start to attach themselves to the themes of otherness that exist in the text. You know, there is a sense in which the Cuckoo Lady is a presentation of like trans exclusionary feminism that is like, I am the traditional woman, and the family kind of upholds this too, where like the traditional cis woman's child is being threatened, not by an actual threat, but just the presence of a trans girl in the family. They see her as trying to push the family away when it's the complete opposite. When she's riding the bike, it has the dynamic of like being catcalled or followed home on the street, but it also has this feeling of like, you know, being hate crimed, of somebody like seeing you existing as trans in the real world and being harassed for it or being followed for it. You can read these themes into it and it doesn't feel like it is in conflict with the text. I feel like that is an example of a rich text rather than like an aimless one.
Yeah, or a flat.
It's exciting to talk about. Yeah.
Anyways, I just hope that more people can appreciate this movie as the rich text that it is, instead of just a horror movie that Neon put out. You know? If you saw this movie, let me know what you thought, because I want to hear more discussion about this film. Let me know in the comments, what did this movie make you feel? Did you enjoy yourself? Were you frustrated? Also, if you want to leave a comment but don't have anything to say, just drop a little bird emoji. Little bird emoji never hurt anyone. If you enjoyed this, liking and subscribing really helps out the channel. If you want to help me do this as a job, if you want to see some bonus content, you can head over to my Patreon. I do a bonus video that comes out alongside every video. In this one, I'm going to be releasing the extended cut of my interview with Elyse, talking about this movie. We just had a really great conversation and it didn't all fit into this. So if you want to see more of our discussion, go ahead and check that out over there.
Whoa. Is that Joji? Is that Dirty Dan? Is that
Dirty Dan? Filthy Frank?
Slimy Steve?
Shitty Sharon?
Okay, see you in the next one. Bye.
Hunter, your character of Gretchen enters into this world and things kind of go cuckoo. Well, what did you know about the cuckoo bird in advance? Anything?
No, before reading the script, I did not know that. I mean, I knew about like cuckoo clocks. That was kind of my only association with the cuckoo bird. However,